What's up, everyone? I'm just hopping on right now. Dior, how's it going? Hey, David. Eddie, how's it going? Just catching the first part of the live. So today is the weekly Wednesday evening Tech Talk Live, talking about tech sales, how to get in, any questions that you have. So this live, like all the Wednesday lives, is sponsored by RepView. They're kind of like the leading resource for tech sales compensation data and for reviews for tech sales organizations. So this is top paying enterprise companies for enterprise sales reps. This is just sorted by OTE. So you get a lot of great information on this site. You get in-depth reviews for, percentage of reps that are hitting quota, what the average OTEs are, and they break it down by like segment, which is cool. So you can see this data for SDR, SMB, mid-market, and enterprise level. So this is at the enterprise level. Usually enterprise is like 250 to 300K OTE. And what's also neat is they show like this top earners section. This is all like user reported data. So you can see like what the top reps are earning at these types of companies. Just quit today and switched to medical device. He was not a fan of work from home. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of work from home. I'm kind of bummed, actually. I was supposed to be going to CES in January. Big conference. I was going to be there for a week in Vegas. And then Omicron is messing things up, so they ended up canceling a lot of the in-person stuff. So unfortunately won't be going. I was starting to do more travel, but it looks like we might be doing the work from home thing for a few more months. What's a good way to get into tech sales? Any info on Master Control? No info on Master Control, but there's a few ways to get into tech sales. So I have a playlist on TikTok, how to get into tech sales. I've got some free resources posted up in terms of like the types of roles that you're looking for on LinkedIn. You're looking for a sales development representative or business development representative. Those are the entry-level roles. They'll hire people without experience for the most part. So I recommend building like a strong resume, trying to get referrals, applying for at least 40 different roles, see if you get any traction. If you don't get any traction after I would say 4 weeks or something, then you can look at a program like Pre-Hired or Pre-Sales Academy. These are two great programs that I endorse. They're linked in my bio. They don't charge anything up front, and they allow you to basically get into tech sales in about 8 to 12 weeks. And they have like a job placement guarantee. They do interview prep. And basically teach you everything you need to know, kind of like with a hands-on experience. So I've had quite a few people go through that, and they've had great success. What would be your next move as a college senior with a degree in marketing and business? My next move as a college senior would definitely be to start leveraging that alumni network. Figure out like the types of companies you want to work for. It's best to pick like a vertical. So if you want to, let's say, work in cybersecurity or cloud, try to hone in on a specific set of tech companies, so that way your interview prep is fairly consistent. And then from there, try to identify hiring managers or employees that went to the same university as you. That's a great way to kind of network on LinkedIn and try to get referrals. Referrals will go a long way, because that first role is definitely the hardest one to get. What if you have 6 years of sales experience but nothing in tech? Would that make a difference? Yeah, it definitely would make a difference. Any like sales experience is definitely going to give you a leg up when you're looking for like these entry-level roles. So how long should someone wait at a Series C startup to get some sort of promotion? You should be getting promoted, I would say, every 2 years, every 2 to 3 years, especially once you get at the higher levels. If you're not on track to get promoted within 2 to 3 years, then you should definitely be working with your manager to see if there's anything else you should be doing to better prepare yourself to get promoted up the ranks. How many years of experience do you need to get into tech sales with a company like Salesforce or Google? So with Google, even at the entry-level roles, they typically want people that have at least 3 to 4 years of experience. but they do hire people with 0 experience and new grads as well. Salesforce, about the same thing, but they also hire new grads as well. What do you know about SEMrush? Not too much, but I can look into it. What's OT? OT is on target earnings. This is how much you would earn if you got 100% of your quota. And your quota is prorated, so if you hit like 70% of your quota, you'll get 70% of your target commission. And OT is a combination of base plus commission. Andrew, you just got a job at Oracle for BDR. Congrats, man. That's awesome. Oracle's an awesome place to start off your career. They have an excellent training program. You're going to learn a lot, so great place to be. Is there a way to join RepView without leaving a review? You don't have any experience? Unfortunately not. I've been telling the founders that they should try to maybe open up, let's say, even like the SDR section, because I've been seeing a lot of those comments, people wondering how can they get access to RepView. They're trying to look for their first tech sales job, but they don't have any experience. They don't want to put in bad data, so I'll bring that up with them again. You work at Smartsheet. It's been awesome. Comp, awesome stock. Yeah, Smartsheet, I've heard great things about Smartsheet. How do you get started with just a high school diploma? Just start applying. These entry-level roles, I mean, they don't care about college degrees anymore, so just start applying for them. Look at my Get Into Tech Sales playlist. Hey, Tom, you're always so patient. Appreciate it. Yeah, happy to help, share as much as I can. Also, add people in company on LinkedIn. Yep, LinkedIn is great. Great way to network. A lot of like hiring managers, for example, if you don't have like a built-out LinkedIn, you should definitely be prioritizing that. A lot of hiring managers, even when I interview people, I usually don't really look at their resume. I just jump straight to their LinkedIn. How about I jump from my financial services to tech sales? How should one go about that? So whenever you try to like pivot, do a career pivot, I recommend trying to like leverage some of your existing background. So like financial sales might be great to like focus on like fintech startups. So that way you can at least apply some of that finance knowledge during the transition. Any thoughts on working on Red Hat? I've heard good things about Red Hat. I wouldn't think or have too many second thoughts. Just started in tech sales as an SDR startup. How long should you wait before you move into corporate? You don't need to move into corporate. Some people enjoy working at startups. It kind of depends on what you're looking for. Usually at startups, you'll have more potential upside, but potentially a worse work-life balance. At corporate, the pay tends to be more consistent, especially if you're at a company that's like publicly traded. But the career progression is also a bit more standardized on the corporate ladder too. So you kind of got to weigh in terms of like what you're looking for. Do you need to know no programming or any CS? Nope. Don't need to know any programming or CS. Even on sales engineering, most sales engineers are not developers. VMware is solid. Are any of these inside roles? Most of the tech sales roles are inside or remote right now. Banking, software, sales advice. Lots of advice. The last startup that I was at, I sold machine learning for credit underwriting, mostly financial services. So it kind of depends on what you're specifically looking for. What do you think about tech support? I started off in tech support actually right out of college. So, I mean, it's okay. You definitely don't have like the high income earning potential as you do in sales, but if you're just looking for something fairly consistent with like a fairly regular day-to-day, then it could be a great fit. What are your thoughts on Smartsheet? Smartsheet's solid. There was actually someone here who just messaged about Smartsheet. Ben Duran Music. He's at Smartsheet right now, so you could reach out to him. Do you think finishing your degree is necessary? 5 years of sales experience? Probably not, unless it's like not going to cost you a lot. I probably don't need to finish it. Ever heard of demand science? Not really. How many hours a week do I work? It's like 20 to 30. 20 to 30 when it's like slower. Sometimes it's like 40 or 50. So it varies quite a bit. You went through your playlist. Remember a specific post where you mentioned building a slide deck? Yeah, so with the slide deck, that would be usually on a lot of interviews, they'll have you do like a mock demo, a mock presentation. So I had a video where I talked about just sending like some recommended slides. Usually you want to keep them fairly short in terms of like, they'll give you like 15 minutes or 20 minutes to pitch a specific product or a company. And they're just wanting to see like how quickly you can learn high level information about the company. and who the customer is that they sell into. Cool, see Big Panda at top. Yeah, Big Panda is a high earning potential company. Oh. So there's a little bit of a delay on the comments. So let's see. Thoughts on video touches? What tools? I didn't really use video touches too much, although I was an SDR back in like 2015 or 2016, I guess. So video wasn't quite as popular as it is nowadays, but there's a couple tools out there. I don't remember them off the top of my head, because right now I'm in global and strategic accounts. I only manage 2 accounts, so I don't really do any prospecting anymore. What's a good company to start selling out if the goal is to go to cloud sales eventually? So if you want to start, if your goal is to, like, let's say get to like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, then it's best to stay within cloud. And a good route to go is actually to look at like resellers. So both like, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, they have very extensive partner and reseller networks. So you could just literally look at like Amazon Web Services partner network. They'll give you like a list of like all the different partners, and all of these roles, all these companies are going to be hiring both sales reps and sales engineers, as well as entry-level folks. So that could be a good way to get into the big cloud companies. How to get better at generating leads, like getting people to a call. Best way to get better is you got to work on your messaging, and don't try to reinvent the wheel. Work with and try to like shadow like the top performing reps at your company, and try to like mimic what they're doing in terms of like messaging, templates, cadences. So what works at one company is going to be different than another company, because it depends, very much on like the customer base that you're selling into, the product that you're selling. So thoughts on going from mortgage to tech sales? Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people move from a variety of different industries. I don't see any issues with going from mortgage to tech sales. Thoughts on working for Adobe? I've heard Adobe's good. David Perry's on here. I did a book review on one of the books that he wrote about working at Adobe. So he's had great experiences there. He used to work at Amazon and Google as well. Thoughts on VMware? VMware is solid. Thoughts on Verkada? I'll have to look at Verkada on RepView, see where they stand. SDR at mortgage company about to get promoted, 23 years old, you want to relocate. Advice. So it depends on where you want to relocate to. A lot of these companies, tech companies, will pay for relocation. So, for example, I went to school at Chicago, relocated to Austin for my first role out of college. They paid in full for my relocation. And when I moved back from Austin to Chicago last year, Amazon paid for my reload too. Are these SDR AE? These are enterprise AE roles. So this is, I would say, 6+ years into your tech sales career if you're doing very well. Any advice becoming better searchable by the algorithms recruiters use? Yeah, so advice there, make sure your LinkedIn is optimized. I've used Resume Assassin to both update my LinkedIn and my resume. She's linked in my bio. You can also just replicate, for example, what you see on my LinkedIn profile. That's linked in my bio too. Make sure you have that checkbox checked on LinkedIn saying that you're open to hearing about new positions by recruiters. Any advice for someone in SaaS at LinkedIn? I'll need a specific question there. Hey Tom, being considered move from an enterprise SDR to sales ops, would you expect an increased comp? So I'm assuming this is at like a bigger tech company. Usually at bigger tech companies, or bigger companies in general, pay is mostly determined by your level, not necessarily the role. So going from an enterprise SDR to sales op, if it's the same level, your comp will probably stay the same. You're moving into a closing role. Any tips for overcoming fear, being an introvert, and learning pitch? Yeah, so I used to be, still am, like fairly introverted, hated public speaking. Best advice is just get a lot of repetition in. Practice pitching in front of a mirror, record yourself, pitch to friends, pitch to colleagues. One thing that's also that I enjoy a good amount is going to like Toastmasters. So Toastmasters is a public speaking nonprofit group. They do like weekly or monthly meetups in most major cities. So you can just search like Toastmasters in your city, and they'll have you can see what the local charter is. What is tech sales? Tech sales is B2B, business to business sales, selling software to other businesses, as opposed to like B2C, business to consumer, like selling insurance or selling cars, for example. So it's a lot more complex. The deals take longer. You know, the pay is higher as well. They're all the tech sales roles will have like a fairly high like base salary, for example, full benefits and everything, as opposed to a lot of B2C sales roles. A lot of those are commission only. Can you talk about sales engineers? Sure. So I used to be a sales engineer. I've been a sales engineer twice, two different startups. One at a cybersecurity startup, another one at a fintech startup doing machine learning for credit underwriting. So sales engineers work hand in hand with the sales reps, with the account executives. And what they do is they're like the technical experts. They do a lot of like the technical deep dives, the product demonstrations. They'll also work on the proof of concepts. So it's a great role. You don't have, if you like to be more technical, you're still on the sales side, so you still get a commission, but it's less than the sales rep. You get a higher base to kind of offset that. Made 18 2 months in sales. Nice. You're in cybersecurity now. Awesome. Join your Discord. Yeah, I'm just bringing on a couple moderators. Going to be doing some cleanup and some more, adding some more resources on the Discord. Discord's in the bio. What are top interview questions for SDR or BDR role? So some top questions that you should definitely expect would be like, why do you want to work at this company? Why are you interested in being an SDR? Why are you interested in like tech sales, for example? What do you know about the types of customers that we sell into? What problems are we solving for them? Then you have your standard like behavioral type questions, like tell me about a situation where you had to make a difficult decision, where you had to do the right thing, blah, blah, blah. So there's a ton of those questions. Just got on, can you show the list again? Yeah, so this is a list of, you know, top paying enterprise account executive roles. This is sorted by company. You have base salary, on target earnings. This is base plus commission, and top earners. So this is from RepView. They're sponsoring this live. They have tech sales compensation data breakdown for a lot of the major tech sales organizations. So as opposed to like Glassdoor, where it's like very generic, like the company reviews is just based on the whole company, this is focused specifically on like the sales organizations within these companies. Just got done with a tech sales interview yesterday, waiting on the results now. Good luck, man. Interviewing is it can be definitely exhausting. Thoughts on Cisco Americai? I've heard mostly positive things from Cisco. Let's see. Just got a bunch of other questions in. Okay. Any ideas in your startup yet? Yeah, a few. I think I'm going to do like cybersecurity risk analytics. An issue within cybersecurity is that there's a lot of data that security professionals have from all their different tools, and they all have like different rankings of severity. A big issue that organizations have is just figuring out where they prioritize their resources. How long does it take to get from an SDR to AE role? Usually 1 to 2 years. It could be even a little faster if you're like a rock star. So what part of Austin did you live in? So I still have my property in Austin. I'm building as well. So in like the Comanche Trail area near Lake Travis and like Hippie Hollow. Nursing major, eventually you want to get into sales. Any thoughts? You want to make around 200K? Yeah, you definitely will make 200K in software sales if you stick at it. Had a few, actually there was like one of my followers, he was like a medical technician, and he was doing it for like 6 years and was starting to get burned out, and then did like the pre-hired bootcamp, and he actually just finished it and just landed an entry-level sales development rep role. So uh, 8 years AE experience in SaaS company, thought finding the right level to apply to larger companies. Yeah, so 8 years AE experience, definitely want to be applying for like enterprise level roles, enterprise account executive. If you're in your role, how would you position yourself to advance the fastest in your career and make money? So which position are you in? Lots of questions there. Thank you so much. Everyone's telling me you'll be a great closer, but your inner critic is loud. Yeah, you know, the nice thing with like tech sales is software sales, it's all those like high pressure sales techniques that you hear about in car sales or insurance sales, they don't really apply within tech sales. It's more about building trust with the customer. So I think you'll do great. You would love to know specifically is your role and what is the corporate hierarchy there. So I'm a account manager, account executive at the strategic and global accounts level. So there's different levels of accounts. You have like small and medium business, mid-market, enterprise, and like strategic named accounts. So that's the level that I'm at there. I manage and run 2 accounts from end to end. Have like a team of individuals that also support the accounts, from like solutions architects, customer success, technical account managers. How do you move from IT implementation to tech sales? So a good transition from IT implementation to tech sales is actually probably sales engineering. So that's like the pre-sales technical role. And then IT implementation background will definitely come in handy because like they look for a lot of like best practices. Which college degree helps you most in your field? If you have the ability to still pick a different college degree, if you're in your undergrad, I always recommend computer science. But a lot of what you'll be learning in college doesn't really apply within tech sales. Like I did biomedical engineering. I don't really use any of that background in my role. What does a cloud reseller do? So the big cloud companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, what they do is they sell cloud infrastructure. But the issue is a lot of companies want to use the cloud, but they don't have the technical expertise to do that. So cloud resellers, basically, they sell cloud services from these other companies, but they also offer support from an implementation perspective, from a management perspective, and they basically get a cut from the big tech companies in order for them to provide these resources to customers. Currently a BDC at Oracle, selling SaaS, 2 months in the role. So yeah, if you want to position yourself, definitely want to get focused on getting promoted from a BDC to an AE as quickly as possible. So work with your manager, make sure you know exactly what metrics you're being tracked against, identify what experiences do you need to have under your belt to show that you'd be ready to get promoted, and then set like an aggressive timeline for you to get promoted, whether that be 12 months or 18 months, and then have at like monthly career level check-ins with your manager just to talk about how you're progressing and how you're tracking to get promoted in that timeline. What resources do you use to keep your tools sharpened and up to date? So I'm a big fan of like newsletters. So I get daily newsletters from The Hustle and The Information. Those are kind of like the 2 main ones that I look at. And then also on TechCrunch. What percentage of your salary do you put in your 401k? How much is a Google match? So I max out my 401k, so I think it's like $20,000 per year. So in terms of like percentage of salary, I guess what is that? It's like 13% or something. So Google would match 50%. Amazon's match is a bit smaller. It's like 50% up to like the first, like, I don't know, 4 or 6% or something like that. Any tips for outbound ADRs? Yeah, take a look at Mailshake has a great free class called their cold email masterclass. So with outbounding, messaging is definitely really important. And there's a lot of like nuance for like email subjects, what hooks you use within your emails. So they have like some great resources there. Can people get to your level with no college degree? Yep, absolutely. You can definitely get there with no college degree. No college degree is necessary. What does a typical interview look like for a new grad? Any tips? Yeah, a typical interview is going to be asking you in terms of like, why are you interested in this company? Why are you interested in this role? They're going to ask you your typical behavioral interview questions. A lot of the interviews actually will be the same at any of like the tech companies. And then they're mostly looking for like culture fits. And then they might just have a few sales specific questions. But for new grads, they're not going to ask you too many sales questions. If you're more experienced, they're going to ask you questions about like prior deals that you worked on, complex deals, deals that you lost. You're about to do your first panel interview for Enterprise AE. Any tips? Yeah, make sure you know the company background fairly well, their products at a high level, their competitors. have some good deals to talk about that you worked on previously. At the enterprise level, they're going to want to see experience working on like large complex deals. Thoughts on Citrix? Citrix is solid. What would you say the good rep view score is? 85 plus. Yep, 85 plus. You want to probably focus on like 90 plus. It's one of those things where it's like an Amazon score where there really aren't too many companies that have rep view scores below, I think, like 70. But just like on Amazon, for example, if you see a product that has a rating less than 4.3 out of 5, it's actually probably a pretty bad product because most people aren't leaving like 1 and 2 star reviews. So you want to look at like that upper range. I would say 90 plus. Brian, 2 weeks into the enterprise deal desk role and you love it, man. Great pay, great work-life balance. That's awesome. Yeah, deal desk is a super important player on the tech sales team. What industries do you think are solid right now for tech sales? Cybersecurity and cloud are my 2 favorite ones. Then fintechs are doing really well too. What major is best for becoming sales engineers? Electrical or computer engineering? I would say computer engineering. Thoughts on Vendition, their bootcamp? Solid bootcamp. They're more of like a placement agency, but they don't charge anything for their programs, so great program. For all the sales reps here, hope you're having a better Q4 than me. Yeah, Q4, it's interesting. Like I'm either seeing people are like blowing out their 2021 year or they're struggling. You're moving in a closing role. Any tips? I think I touched on that one. You have hella sales experience with wireless and B2B, but you haven't been able to get a job in tech sales or SaaS. Yeah, if you're having trouble, definitely start getting referrals. Reach out to hiring managers on LinkedIn or sales managers. Otherwise, like if you're just applying to roles and you're not hearing back, it's probably because you need like kind of like that personal touch to show like why you're interested in tech sales. Are these SDR AEs? These are enterprise AE roles. What can you tell me about working for Dell? So Dell is kind of one of those like legacy enterprises. So they're trying to catch up within the cloud space. I've heard that they're investing quite a bit, but traditionally, like when I used to live in Austin, they were known for paying less than like the bigger tech companies, but still a solid place to be. How to tell if a company frequently promotes from within? Look at LinkedIn for sure. Like when you're interviewing at companies, look at like the LinkedIn profile of like your hiring managers, for example, and the people that you're interviewing with, and see like, are they staying in the same role for 3+ years, or are they getting promoted every like 1 to 2 years? What could be an expected base salary for SDR base or SDR or BDR with no experience? So what I've been seeing for SDRs is they're getting offers between 60 and 100K OTE. The highest one I saw was 105K OTE. So bases will range from like 40 to 70K. It's going to vary quite a bit based on the location of the company. 2-year sales experience, graduating next December within marketing. Definitely try to get referrals or internships. You still have time to get sales internships. Let me scroll up here. So these questions will I get like randomly a bunch of questions at one time. Your position versus key account director. I think it's equivalent. Google has a role called key account director. Key account director is actually higher level. Google recently added that because they wanted individual contributors to join the company with like 15, 20 years of experience, and you're able to basically be at a director level as an individual contributor. So it's a similar type of role. I think at Google, the key account directors are like level 8, level 9 roles. At Amazon, you have your global account managers. Those are level 6 or level 7. But Amazon or Google roles are one level higher, or they're one level lower than Google. So the key account directors are typically going to be a lot more senior than these global account managers. Is a bootcamp absolutely necessary? No, it's not absolutely necessary, but it could definitely help if you want like a guided experience and you're having trouble breaking in. What about working in the channel selling software like HubSpot? So I've never done a lot of work within the channel selling space, but I have colleagues that tell me that they enjoy it. If you're at Oracle, leave. Oracle is not like a terrible place to be. It's very dependent on like your manager. I would say they definitely have great like training and support. Great place to start off your tech sales career, and then, but I know plenty of people that have been there for like 5+ years and they're still doing well. So you really have to like see like if you're on that path to get promoted or if you're going to stagnate and then have to kind of exit somewhere else. Is there a cap on what sales engineers can make, and if so, what is the cap? Yeah, typically sales engineers, they're going to top out at about 300K OTE, and that's going to be at like the bigger tech companies. At like most startups, for like a senior sales engineer, a typical pay for a sales engineer is like 220 to 250K OTE. And that's the cap just on the cash portion. Of course, you'll still can get like stock and equity. And that's pretty much where it tops out at. What do you think is Google is looking for a mid-market GCP sales engineer? They're definitely looking for cloud experience, and then the certifications are going to go a long way. So get those GCP certifications, and they're also looking for like industry-specific experience. Google's sales engineer organization, they also have their sales engineers specialize in different verticals like analytics or machine learning. So figure out which one you're interested in and then focus your interview prep on that vertical. Just graduated college. What's the best first step to get into tech software sales? Best first step is to look for those sales development representative positions. They're pretty much all going to be listed on LinkedIn. They're going to be hiring people with like no sales experience. But if you just graduate college, definitely leverage your alumni network. Make sure your LinkedIn is built out. Start networking and connecting with individuals at the target companies you want to work at. I find it's best to focus on the companies that you want to work for, not necessarily like the role, because you can always do like internal transfers within the company. But figure out what companies you want to work at. See if there's people that work there that went to the same college as you. Try to get a warm intro into the sales hiring manager, and then indicate your interest in joining as a sales development representative. And they're pretty much always hiring for these roles. Where do I work? I'm at Amazon Web Services. What are some things that make a tech SDR successful? Some of the things I think that make them successful would be being coachable, being curious, asking a lot of questions, not just questions about the product, but questions in terms of like why sales processes are the way that they are. Being a team player and then giving back and then teaching your teammates what you've learned is also going to make you very successful too. Do people stay within enterprise sales for life or where they move to? It depends. Yeah, some people, they'll stay in enterprise sales for the rest of their career as an individual contributor. You can move into management. You can move into other parts of the organization. You can move into sales engineering. You can move into product management. You can move into, technical account management, customer success, business development. So it kind of depends on like what you end up getting interested in. Do you see salaries going up or down in the future? Definitely see salaries going up. Hey Tom, glad to see you converting the masses of tech sales. Yep, trying to do my best to bring more awareness to the industry. Is it important to be vocal within an organization? Yes, definitely be important to be vocal. Anytime like you're, especially on the sales side, because you're the closest to the customers. So any like feedback that you're getting about like the product, you should definitely be working with the product team to make sure that they're hearing that feedback in terms of how customers are actually using the products, their pain points, because that's going to just help everyone do better. Do you aspire to go into sales management? Are you comfortable being an IC? I would go into sales management if it's at like the right level role and at the right company. I've done management in the past at like a smaller startup. Right now, I kind of enjoy the IC path. I think what would be like the most logical next step for me wouldn't necessarily be to go into sales management at like a big company. It would be to start my own company and then do management that way. How do you suggest getting interviews with no sales experience, but experience in project management, data analysis. So yeah, the first role is definitely going to be the hardest one to get. So it's not unusual to have to apply to 40 or 50 different roles before you start getting interviews. But if you really want to pivot, a good way to do it is, instead of just applying for roles, start doing some prospecting on LinkedIn, identify who the hiring managers, who the sales managers are at those companies. Try to connect with them informally, share with them why you're interested in going into the tech sales side, and then see if you get like a referral that way. That's going to be like your best way to get interviews. You live in Austin. I live in Chicago right now, but thinking about moving back probably next year, but we'll see. You have an interview for Podium. I'm kind of scared right now because you don't want to deal with quota. Yeah, don't worry. I mean, quota is usually fairly reasonable. At most companies, like good companies, 60 or 70% of reps are definitely hitting quota. And even if you don't hit quota, it's pretty rare to, like, let's say, hit like less than like 70% of your quota. So even if you don't hit quota, you're still going to get like most of the pay that you'd be expecting. Thoughts on Samsara? I've heard good things with Samsara. So definitely a good place to look at. You need a boot camp? No, you don't need a boot camp, but it can help, especially if you're coming from like a non-traditional background. Highest annual quota that you know of? Oh, let me see. Some questions here. Hit 200% quota. The first one's the SDR. Thanks for your content. Congrats, man. That's awesome. So keep it up, and you'll be on the fast track to get promoted. How do you hit OTE? You hit OTE by being consistent, really understanding your goals, how you're being measured, and then breaking down your activity at a daily level, and then being consistent. That's really how you hit OTE. You're in Austin, you want to take a certification course. Which one? There's a couple I recommend. Pre-hired, Pre-Sales Academy. Those are in my bio. Is tech sales cold calling front to back? The entry-level roles will have some cold calling. Cold calling or emailing is a part of the role. But you're not just like working on like totally cold leads. Usually it's individuals and companies that have indicated interest, or they've gone on the website, gone to a webinar. Would you learn how to code first before learning to sell tech? You definitely don't need to, unless like you're really interested in like the sales engineer side, and you're looking at like a company that sells like a very technical product that would require coding during the implementation phase. Then you could look at coding, but I wouldn't focus on that. Sales ERP, SaaS ERP, yay or nay for 2022? I'm not very excited about ERP, but if you have a lot of background industry experience in it, it could be good. Best sector of tech, in my experience, cybersecurity or cloud right now. Advice for making the jump from SDR, BDR to first AE role. Best advice is try to do it within the company that you're at right now. Get promoted before you switch companies. It's a lot easier to get promoted to an AE as an SDR versus trying to join a new company interviewing for AE roles as an SDR, because those AE interviews are going to be asking for closing experience, which you're not really going to have as an SDR. Any recommendations for negotiating a pay raise? You feel like you're underpaid in your tech partnerships. Yeah, your best bet is to get outside offers. So just so you know like what the market is actually going to pay for yourself. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, in most cases you're gonna get the biggest pay raise by leaving the company. So but get those offers in hand first. Definitely start like interviewing, build up that confidence so you at least know like what you're worth, and then use that data to present to like your manager, for example, that indicate that you still want to stay at the company, but you want to focus on ways that you can increase your pay. So they might for example talk about path to promotion. That could be a way to negotiate a pay raise. Highest annual quota that you know of. So at like the big tech companies, like the big cloud companies, you'll have at the strategic global account levels, you'll have annual quotas upwards of $100 million a year or more, depending on the accounts that you're covering. Will timeshare experience help? It'll help. Like any sales experience will help land those first roles. Highest pay for a sales engineer. I just did a video on it. Highest pay, highest OTE, 250, 300K OTE. That's kind of where it tops out. Plus stock though. Like I know buddy at Snowflake joined a year before they went IPO, and he's making well over $1 million a year because of the stock that he has. So OTE plus stock is over $1 million a year for him. Starting salary range for SDR position with no experience, 60 to 100K OTE, and then usually 80% of that is going to be base salary. New SDR here. Any advice? I think I touched on that one, and there might have been a repeat. How much experience do you need to make 500K in income in sales? So at the enterprise level here, you can get to this level within like 5-6 years. If you're doing very well and you get promoted, you'll start off as a sales development representative, move into like ISR, and then SMB AE, and then enterprise. So that gets you at this 300K mark. To consistently make 500 a year is going to be difficult because you'll have up years and down years. But let's say if you get into a company like Google or Amazon where they also give you stock as well, you could probably get to the point where you're making 500 a year in OTE plus stock, I would say within like 8 years or so if you're doing it well. Is there a path from sales engineers to AE? There is. So the best path is usually to do it within the company that you're at. So if you're a sales engineer, work with who the sales manager is, tell them why you're interested in making that switch, and then try to identify what the internal transfer path is. Usually there's internal transfer path. I know quite a few sales engineers that ended up making that move. Possible to skip SDR and go straight to AE? It's possible, but you need a lot of like industry specific knowledge. So it's fairly difficult, but don't get too wrapped up on like skipping the SDR phase. Think of the SDR as more of like an AE paid apprenticeship for the most part. All the skills and best practices that you're learning as an SDR, they're going to help you be a better AE. Hit President's Club this year, quota increasing 30% next year. How much should your base OTE go up? Well, congrats, man, on getting President's Club. Next question is, how much should your base OTE go up? So usually your base OTE does not really go up when they raise quota for the most part. A bigger question is, are you only selling to new accounts, net new accounts, or do you get paid on existing accounts as well? If you're only selling to net new accounts, and this is at a startup, for example, and they're raising your quota 30%, then I would actually probably expect maybe a 30% OTE raise to go up. But if you're managing like existing accounts, for example, or if you get paid on both existing and new accounts, then usually they won't raise your OTE just because your quota goes up. Are these jobs remote? Most of these jobs are remote right now. And then if there is travel, it's occasional travel out to a customer or to like a conference. But other than that, you're like working from home for the most part. What does OTE stand for? OTE is on target earnings. This is how much you would earn in a year, base plus commission, if you hit 100% of your quota. What do you think about Chili Piper? They sell meeting automation software. I've heard good things. Actually, Chili Piper's on TikTok. How do you effectively network? Do you network with sales managers or recruiters? So if you want to network, you should be focusing on sales managers, not recruiters. Recruiters are like focused on like specific roles that they're hiring for. Your best bet for networking is definitely focusing on the sales managers. Top rep earnings have to be skewed. You work as an SE at the strategic levels for one of the ones that you have to work up to. Yeah, I mean, the top earnings is definitely skewed because, I mean, these are basically going to be like reps that had like a really, large deal that came in and they had a blowout year. Top earners, usually on average, like these are like super high earners, might be like 50% higher than your OTE. So like a 300K OTE, like a high performer is going to be earning like 450K. Like 916K on a 300K OTE means you probably tripled their quota, for example, which is not going to happen consistently. What GPA do you need to get a sales job? There really aren't like GPA requirements for the most part. Don't discount commercial versus enterprise sales. Some sales plans are more lucrative as mid-market. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the thing. When you move up the level, usually you have less accounts that you're managing. So I saw this at Google. The SMB reps actually, I think, earn the most compared to enterprise. Mainly because they were covering a lot of like smaller startups that would blow up, and it was easier for them to exceed their quotas versus at like the enterprise level, you have a small number of accounts or a smaller number of accounts, so you have like less at bats, and these bigger companies can take a lot longer to sell into, so you have longer sales cycles. So the one difference between these is sometimes you have to move up to enterprise to move up the corporate ladder from a level perspective. But what I'm seeing more and more of is at places like at Google and at Amazon, you can actually get to the same level internally at any of the market segments, SMB, mid-market, or enterprise. Any cert recommendations you can get as a SDR that would help maximize your experience? Yeah, I think someone told me Salesforce actually came out with an SDR certification, so check that one out. Missed your answer on your President's Club question. How much of a raise should you expect? So the raise is going to depend on if you're getting paid on existing business or not. If you're not getting paid on existing business, then I would expect up to a 30% raise if the quota is going up 30%. But if you're getting paid on existing accounts as well, which I'm guessing you probably are, then there usually won't be a raise, if at all, just because quota goes up. Like my quota is going up 30% next year because my accounts are growing, but there's no associated raise with that. You've been a bartender for 10 years. Is it too late? Nope, not too late. What's the first step? Sorry, you missed it. First steps would be build out your LinkedIn if you haven't already. You should have a sales-focused resume, meaning try to create objective accomplishments for all of your prior experiences. And then you're going to be applying for sales development representative or business development representative positions. They're pretty much mostly all posted on LinkedIn. Try to apply for like 30 or 40 roles. And if you don't get any traction after like 3 or 4 weeks, then you can start to look at boot camps. If, for example, you don't have like a technical background or you don't have like the referrals or anything like that. Pre-hired, pre-sales academy, both solid programs. They don't charge anything up front, and they'll get you in a tech sales role, like pretty much guaranteed in 8 to 12 weeks. You don't pay anything until you actually land a role. What percent raise should you expect this year with inflation? Not promotion, just cost of living. So normal raises, annual raises at companies is like 2 to 3% if you don't get promoted. I'm not sure if they're actually going to raise that much higher. I've heard at Google, for example, they're not doing any additional cost of living raise just because of inflation. So I wouldn't hold your breath for anything more than 2 or 3%. Does your degree matter for high-tech career progression? Not really. The only degree that would probably might help is like computer science. But even then, it's not really going to make that much of a difference past like the entry-level roles. Going from enterprise to enterprise role, but book is way higher. Best ways to talk to that in an interview. At what price point? So yeah, best ways to talk about it. I mean, so I guess when you're talking about like your book of business is higher in your existing role, that's a good question. At what price point would you personally switch into management versus individual contributor? So usually, and this is, most people don't realize this, managers don't really earn more than the reps that they're managing for the most part. OTE stays the same. Like for example, if I was to move into a management sales manager role, it's going to be at the same level. So unless I get a promotion internally from Amazon from like level 6 to level 7, my pay is going to stay the same. OTE commission structure is actually the same for management versus IC. So Usually you wouldn't switch into management just to earn more money. You would switch into management because that's something you're interested in. How much target do you need to hit for the earnings to be in the range in your picture? So quotas will vary quite a bit. So at like Google Cloud, for example, at the enterprise level, some territories will have quotas in the $50+ million range. Other territories that I know of only had a quota of like $2 million a year. So it just really depends on the territory. Can you go from inbound SDR to AE if you switch companies, or do you want outbound experience? So it's not outbound experience that they're looking for. They're looking for closing experience. So it's gonna be pretty hard to go from an SDR to an AE externally. Any tips on going straight to AE role? It's gonna be very, very hard to do that. My best advice is try not to skip it. Instead, focus on like the companies that you want to work for as an AE. It's actually easier to get in as an SDR versus an AE. So for example, if you want to work at Microsoft, it's a lot easier to get in as an SDR and then get promoted up versus trying to get outside sales experience and trying to apply for those AE roles. Are there business trips, company credit cards? Yes, there's both. So definitely both. Like for example, it was like a couple weeks ago, did a 4-day trip out to Vegas, did customer lunches, dinners, happy hours. Those are all expense paid, flight, hotel. There's a company credit card that's available. Usually most companies will offer a company credit card, but a lot of reps will choose to just use their own credit cards. So that way you get the credit card points instead, and then you just do expense reports. You know someone who skipped SDR. Right now is a good time to get right in as an AE. Yeah, it depends. So companies are like hiring aggressively, so you could maybe get in as an AE. It's going to be more likely at a startup than a bigger company. Tom, you just sold your MSP. You kind of want to work for Amazon for fun as a sales guy for a while. Is it possible? Yeah. Congrats on selling your MSP. And yeah, I mean, actually I know a lot of people that are at like Amazon and Google, for example, that actually have like quite a few side businesses that they're doing, or even like outside consulting. And they work at like the big tech companies just for like some stability, for the benefits and everything, just to keep themselves a bit more busy during like those slow times that they have with their side hustles. So definitely possible. 3 years of sales experience. What do you recommend that you do to get a tech sales job? So look at my playlist, get into tech sales, check that out. What's my ideal next 20 years? My ideal next 20 years is, ideally, let's say in like 3 to 5 years, I would like to, be working on my startup. And then, I would say, 5 to 10 years after I launch it, my plan would be to get it acquired or go public. And then depending on which path, that would change like the next 10 years or 5 years. But if it got acquired, then I would take that money from my exit and I would want to start my own VC, venture capital firm. What part of Austin did I live in? I lived in and still have property out there near Lake Travis, near like the Hippie Hollow Park. What did I major in? I majored in biomedical engineering. ISA is a deal breaker. Would you recommend a bootcamp? Yeah, I do recommend bootcamps. Pre-hired, Pre-Sales Academy, both great bootcamps. Those are listed in my bio. I don't think ISAs are a deal breaker. Actually, I like income share agreements as opposed to like paying for programs up front, because what they do is they actually incentivize the bootcamps to actually provide valuable content and make sure that you actually land a role. So as opposed to like college, for example, where you pay $30,000 a year for an undergrad degree, and whether or not you get a job out of college, you still have to pay back your student loans. So with income share agreements, for example, at Pre-Hire and Pre-Sales Academy, unless you get a job that pays at least $70,000 a year, you don't have to pay back anything to the program. So a big portion of what they provide is job placement. So they do interview prep, resume, editing, formatting, coaching. They have partnerships with different tech companies that are hiring sales reps. So I think it's actually, I don't think it's a deal breaker at all. Age limit, no. I know reps in their like 60s. Even I think the oldest one I knew was like just over like 70, so definitely no age limits. Actually, I think being older probably even helps you in tech sales because a lot of like the people that you're selling to, they're at the director level and higher, and they're all like in their 40s, 50s, 60s. So interview prep tips for SDR. So I talked about this one earlier. Prep tips would be have a good answer for why you're interested in that company, why you're interested in tech sales, know the background of the company, know what their products do at a high level, who their competitors are, how they fit within the space, the problems that they're solving, and then just prepare like the normal behavioral type interview questions. Is AWS Cloud Practitioner certification hard? I think it's pretty easy. So freecodecamp.org, they have a great like 4-hour prep video for the Cloud Practitioner certification. It's like 4 hours long. When I took it, all I did was I watched that video, I took notes, studied notes, and I was able to pass it in like a day or whatever. Is it true that there's lenient dress code at these jobs? Yeah, for the most part. I mean, this is like the type of stuff that I'm wearing. And then you only really dress up like when you do customer visits or for conferences. And even for the most part, usually it's business casual. Why did I break into tech sales? Mostly because of money. I started off in tech support. I knew I wanted to make more money because I was really big into like cars, motorcycles, wanted to do more real estate. So I was like Googling highest paying careers, and I saw tech sales, sales engineering there. So how important are employee stock programs? How much do you participate in it at all? So employee stock programs. So companies will either give you stock or they have a program where you can buy stock at a discount. So when I was at National Instruments, they had an employee stock purchase program, and I maxed out what I could get. But at the companies I'm at right now that I've been at, they don't do those. They either give you equity in terms of like options, or they give you stock grants. You don't have to pay anything into those. So both Google and Amazon, they give you stock on a yearly basis. You don't have to contribute to it. You don't know if you should make a jump to Series E, start up with a 1.5 billion valuation. So 1.5 billion, I think. So there's still like room for them to grow depending on what industry that they're in. I think it could be a good time to jump in. Series E means it's relatively low risk, but your upside is going to be capped. Let's say, because if they go from like 1.5 billion to 10 million, for example, that's a pretty big jump to make at that point. It's a lot harder to get to that point versus, let's say, $20 million valuation to, $300 million valuation. What is your startup? I haven't started it yet, but I want to do cybersecurity. Do you know a lot of high-end tech sales reps that pivoted to VC roles? I don't know like a ton, but I know a few that have done that. Basically, once they've been doing it for like 10 or 15 years, a good way to pivot into VC roles is actually if you have a lot of capital to invest. So once you get to that point, it's relatively easy to get into a VC role without like having to go like the whole analyst route and everything. Your company loves Bitcoin. Yeah, a lot of them do. Definitely a hot topic right now. What's the site again if you're using Gather Salaries? This is RepView. It's not about money. You want to shake hands with important people. Yeah. So that's a great reason to get into like the bigger companies like Amazon or Google. You're going to be able to build like a really great network with high level folks within these companies. So, and also you'll be able to talk to like a bunch of different customers, especially if you're at the enterprise and higher level. So great way to network. Have I heard of Verkada? I've heard of Verkada. Can you work remote? Yeah, most of these jobs are remote right now with occasional travel. Do you think consulting is a good path after sales? I don't think many people go into consulting after sales. If anything, I see people going from consulting to tech sales. You'll be interning at AWS in sales. What do you recommend for dress code? So business casual, but honestly, most people are just wearing like casual, so like hoodies or polo or something like that. These are great questions. So I'm gonna be wrapping it up because it's getting late for me. But if you guys have any other questions, feel free to message me on Instagram, on DMs. I respond to most of them within like a couple days. Usually, I have a little bit of a backlog right now. I do these lives every Wednesday. I'll add the next live to the calendar on my profile, so you can like get a reminder for the next weekly live. And I do random lives as well. I have the Discord community. People talk about the Discord. That's linked in my bio. My LinkedIn is linked in my bio as well. And then if you're having trouble getting into these entry-level roles, there are like 2 boot camps that I recommend. Pre-hired, Pre-Sales Academy. Both of them don't charge anything up front. They're linked in the bio. Feel free to check those out. Message me if you have any questions about those. And then again, this is on RepView. RepView is a great resource for learning about tech sales organizations, which ones are highly rated, which one percentage of reps they're hitting quota, how much they're earning. Why do I do this? I just like to give back. So I kind of stumbled into tech sales, kind of figured out my own way to do it. I didn't have any special connections or anything. Both my parents immigrated from Poland. I didn't really know anyone in tech, so I was fortunate enough to kind of figure out how to do it. But there's a lot of gatekeeping within this industry, so I'm just trying to break down barriers for everyone. Tech sales or AEs. So AEs, account executives, fall under tech sales. So tech sales, there's a bunch of different roles within it. There's sales engineers, sales reps, customer success, technical account managers. So thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be posting this on YouTube as well. I have my recorded lives I've been posting on my YouTube. That's linked in my bio too. So feel free to check that out if there was anything that you missed. But thanks everyone. Have a great night.